In this case, almost anything could happen. What's worse is if the driver is in an area far from a telephone. It could potentially be hours or even a day before law enforcement could be notified. Security breaches. It's important to ask the question, if I were a terrorist, how would I infiltrate my company? And what are the least secure aspects? Think of everything from how sensitive documents are stored to how all of your exits are secured. These are undoubtedly the greatest risks you and your company face. If you have a troublesome back door with a broken lock you've been meaning to fix, you've just identified a risk that could result in a major security breach at your company. In this section, we will talk about the importance of ongoing risk assessment and emergency preparedness. We will also take a look at some potential scenarios and responses. As we just alluded to under security breaches, it's essential that you assess all of the risks your company faces. This is an ongoing effort. As terrorists change tactics and targets, you must continuously assess your risks. Go through each of the threats we identified and think about what you and your company would do when faced with a threat. The following are just some of the scenarios which may present themselves. Included are some sample responses for handling such scenarios. Scenario 1. Routes traveled. While refueling at a rest area, an individual approaches you and begins asking about what you're transporting and where you're going. The individual watches your vehicle the entire time you are refueling. You feel the individual is acting very suspicious. If you feel the individual is acting suspicious and you are concerned that your vehicle and/or cargo are at risk, immediately call the local authorities. Also, immediately contact your company dispatcher and delivery point of contact and make them aware of the situation. Scenario 2. Storage en route. You are about to depart from a rest stop. You inspect your vehicle before leaving and notice a drum of cyanide is missing. Again, immediately call the local authorities. Also, immediately contact your company dispatcher and delivery point of contact and make them aware of the situation. Scenario 3. Facilities. In an area adjacent to your facility, a tractor-trailer, not one of yours, is parked. There is no sign of a driver, and it's not a type of tractor-trailer that you'd expect to see in your area. Don't second-guess suspicious individuals or suspicious activity. This scenario would definitely classify as a suspicious activity. Immediately contact your local authorities and do not attempt to approach the vehicle as it could be a trap. When contacting the local authorities, ensure that you make them fully aware of the types of hazardous materials contained at your facility, so they can prepare emergency response individuals. Scenario 4. Personnel. A customer calls up and wishes to place a large order of explosives. You have never done business with the company. In fact, you have never heard of this company. In this situation, you should be leery about doing any business with this company until you can thoroughly check them out. Get as much information as you can, such as the company's address and what other companies they do business with. Verify the company address. Review the safety ratings posted by the appropriate federal agencies. Contact the Better Business Bureau in your area, and contact their clients. Also, try to verify their explanation for the purchase. If they are a construction company who claims to have just received a job demolishing a large outdated sports arena, confirm it. If you can confirm all of this information, by all means accept the business if you feel comfortable. If any of the information they provide you with doesn't check out, you should not accept their business, as it could be part of a terrorist plot. In this situation, immediately contact your local authorities, who will escalate the incident to federal authorities. Scenario 5. Receiving shipments. There is an article contained in an incoming shipment that is not listed in the shipping papers. The article does not match the expected cargo that was part of the shipment you received. You should immediately evacuate your facility. Contact the shipper to see if they can identify a shipping error in which they can identify the article that was mistakenly included with the shipment. If they cannot verify or identify the article, immediately contact local authorities. When contacting the local authorities, ensure that you make them fully aware of the types of hazardous materials contained at your facility so they can prepare emergency response individuals. Scenario 6. Communication. You have lost contact with your driver transporting dynamite. The last time he reported in, he was within an hour of his destination. That was almost 2 hours ago. You contact the destination point of contact person, and it's reported that the shipment has not arrived. Immediately contact law enforcement agents in the areas both where your driver last reported from and at the destination area. When contacting the authorities, ensure that you make them fully aware of the type of hazardous materials your driver is transporting so they can prepare emergency response individuals. In this section, we will provide you with some useful tips for recognizing and responding to everyday threats. When leaving your facility and while on the road, check and see if anyone is watching you and/or your vehicle. You also want to walk around and inspect your truck before and after every stop you make. At all times, do not discuss your cargo, route, or destination with any unauthorized individuals. While on the road, be aware of people approaching your vehicle, and carry communication devices with you at all times. It's important to know who to call in the event of an emergency. Have emergency numbers available at all times. These numbers should include your dispatcher's number, the number for the local authorities in your area, and the areas you're traveling through. In addition, have the number for your destination point of contact. When stopping, stop in secure areas only. Remove the keys and keep them on your person, and always lock your doors. In this section, we will tell you about the new security training and security plan requirements for hazardous materials employers and employees. There are several measures both you and your company can take to reduce the security risks associated with the transport of hazardous materials. Training is perhaps one of the most important measures, if not the most important measure, that can be taken. If you're not aware of the risks, how can you possibly avoid or prevent them? This initial security awareness training, along with training on your company's security plan, will better prepare you for the possible dangers you face every day in these times. An important component of training should include information about current terrorist threats and tactics. It's essential that all hazmat employees monitor news reports and respond accordingly when the terrorism threat level is raised. Your company's security plan must be strictly adhered to. Throughout this training, we have repeatedly highlighted that law enforcement agents cannot be everywhere at once. And it's not just the big guys who are at risk. You must do your part to keep our country safe. Whether you're a shipper, carrier, or anyone else involved in the transport of hazardous materials, it's important to work together. Your company's security plan will blueprint all of the steps your company is taking to prevent an act of terrorism involving trucks and hazardous materials. Specifically, your company's security plan will cover the specific risks your company faces, how your company will be able to identify and respond to security threats, and the preventive measures your company has and will put into place. Each aspect covered in the security plan should also clarify the role and responsibilities of all employees in adhering to the security plan. Let's now briefly review the material covered in this training. In Section 1, we talked about the current and very real threats against those working in the hazardous materials industry. We also told you about 2 recent terrorist plots involving hazardous materials, which, thankfully, were foiled before they could be carried out. In Section 2, we told you about the many different ways you and your company could be put at risk. These include attacks, theft, hijacking, sabotage, weaponization, and disguised weapons. In Section 3, we discussed the potential targeting of your company's cargo and facilities by terrorists. We also discussed the importance of not assuming it's just the larger companies who may be targeted. In Section 4, we let you know about the common risks and threats hazmat employees and employers face day to day. These risks and threats include routes traveled, quantity of cargo, storage en route, loading and unloading, facilities, personnel, receiving shipments, documentation, communication, and security breaches. In Section 5, you learn the importance of risk assessment. You need to continuously assess the risks you and your company face. You also learn the importance of emergency preparedness. So, if and when a situation arises, you will be ready. Also in Section 5, we presented several what-if scenarios and responses to those scenarios. In Section 6, we provided you with tips for recognizing and responding to threats. These tips include checking for surveillance, walking around your vehicle, not discussing your cargo, route, or destination, being aware and alert for individuals approaching your vehicle, carrying communication devices at all times, keeping emergency numbers handy, stopping only in secure areas, and removing keys and locking your doors at each stop. And finally, in Section 7, we discussed prevention. Prevention is key to protecting yourself, your company, and the United States of America. The prevention measures we discussed included training. All hazmat employees must complete initial security awareness training and must be trained on their company's security plan. Lastly, we discussed the importance and requirement for companies to develop security plans addressing their risk and the measures they are taking to reduce those risks. We can't emphasize the importance of ongoing training and keeping your security plan up to date enough. Staying a step ahead of terrorists is the best defense for all of us. This concludes our video training. Foley Services Incorporated has been an administrator of DOT safety programs since 1992.